Hey, I'm Decathlon Gamer, and welcome to F1 Manager 22, or 2022 as it's sometimes referred to as. And this is from Frontier Developments, and it is just out on early release. It's supposed to be out in 5 days, but it is available if you pre-order now. So get in, get your copy, and you can start playing F1 Manager right away. I am so excited for this one. For one thing, Motorsport Manager was a regular feature on this channel when I first started up, and it was a big part of what we did here. Alongside Pro Cycling Manager, this is exactly my area, and I'm so excited. Back then, the channel was absolutely tiny. It was minuscule. Now, it has grown quite a bit. Not to the big boys that are out there that have gotten it a day ahead of me, but I'm so excited now to get to play F1 Manager 22, and I will guarantee you immediately that we will play this beginning to end. Also, if you weren't aware, F1 Manager 22 is just the first of a 3-year deal for full licensing that Frontier Developments has on this title. So there will be an F1 Manager 23, there will be an F1 Manager 24, or presumably 23 and 24. I hope they don't make it a 24-26 type scenario, but hey, you never know. Anyway, we are going to be going from bottom to top. This is a Return to Glory series.
Formula One, a sport that spans hearts, minds and nations, where the 20 best drivers in the world come together to take on some of the world's most historic circuits. And that legacy continues today. The 2021 championship was thrilling from start to finish, and 2022 is set to be even better. New regulations will usher in an age of pioneering changes. New driving talent alongside returning champions will be dueling it out to the bitter end. The pressure will be on the team principals in the upcoming season as they manage their drivers, their cars, and the whole team to push to victory. This is not a challenge for the faint-hearted. This is Formula One.
First thing, subtitles. I have enabled them. They are not on by default, but I like subtitles for one thing. My wife is from the Philippines, and we watch a lot of foreign language TV, movies, and not just Tagalog, but all over the world. And so I'm used to watching in subtitles all the time. So I do have it enabled, but for your own, if you don't like it, it's off by default anyway. We, for this series, are going to be doing a Return to Glory, so let's see what Williams brings to the table.
Williams is a legendary name in F1, winning 9 Constructors' Championships in their heyday. The Williams family sold the team in 2020, and the 2021 season saw them fighting well from start to end. They finished 8th overall, thanks to some incredible performances by George Russell in his last year as a Williams driver. In 2022, Williams have Nicholas Latifi and new signing Alex Albon, returning to F1 after a year away to make up their driver team. The pressure is on for them to up their performance this season and push their way back towards those midfield places.
Noticeable thing for me about the F1 2022 season is that Williams is a team that isn't as far off the back as they were a couple years ago. They were very, very far adrift. However, one noticeable thing is the field is all over the place, weekend after weekend. And while Williams isn't necessarily the worst team right now, it varies. It really does vary. Some weeks it's Aston Martin, some weeks it's Williams, some weeks it's Alfa Romeo, some weeks it's AlphaTauri, Haas, totally all over the place. Sometimes it's Daniel Ricciardo and the now outgoing McLaren, as that was just announced. So the field is competitive, but one thing is clear. Williams is still at the back. Darlington Capital stepping in and purchasing the team has definitely injected a little bit of cash, and we'll see how that translates as we begin this playthrough. But right now, the season objective, 9th place. Long-term objective, according to the team, points contender. For me, Constructors champion. Not in a year, Probably not in 2. We want to get the Constructors and the Drivers' Championship eventually in this, and will eventually in this series get there. How long it takes, we'll find out. For me, season number 1, do enough to, not see things fall apart. We don't want the floor to fall out from underneath us. But for me, the objective is long-term gains, not short-term. So we will definitely be taking our time with upgrades, because you can definitely rush upgrades for less gain. We won't be rushing any upgrades in season 1, and we're going to be looking at infrastructure, staff upgrades, long-term driver pairings. Albon probably we'll get a look at him early on, but I would imagine that Albon is okay right now, but does have long-term potential. I'm guessing that Nicholas Latifi does not, so we will be looking to replace Latifi with a high potential driver into that seat, even if they don't necessarily perform. They can't perform much worse than Latifi is. With a low starting balance, finances are going to be a big concern long term, so we do want to see what we can do to improve that. Let's go ahead and get started with Williams Racing and a return to glory. As it is my first time playing as well, even though I have been following development very closely, actually for years, long before F1 Manager 22 was announced publicly as a thing. I knew that Frontier Developments had a licensing contract in place, a 3-year deal with F1, and I knew that it was being worked on long before it was widespread news. It was one of those more quiet news pieces, and I've been tracking and checking it every few months for years, for years now, because I enjoyed Motorsport Manager so much. But it was a game that was not further developed. And yes, it had mod sport, and that was great, but it had its limitations. This is a huge step in the right direction. But as it is my first time, I do have the tutorials enabled, and will at least be keeping them on for a little while.
We came under new management recently here at Williams, so you're joining us at a very exciting time.
So as part of the tutorial, essentially, we have one new part here as we are in preseason testing right now, and that one new part is a suspension. There's only one available, meaning I cannot install it on both cars, but what we do have is the W22 S2, so suspension 2. The W22, as in the Williams 22-year edition, and actually haven't seen how it compares. I want to see how does it compare. Top speed goes up ever so slightly, medium speed goes up a little bit, and more importantly, our dirty air cornering, so I did look at an analysis of the Williams versus the other teams, and we are very much at the back of the grid. We're not far off when it comes to top speed and acceleration from average. We are below, but we're not far away. Cornering, we're not far off. It's the dirty air cornering where we really, really struggle, which essentially means that when you're following somebody else, it impacts us more than others. Brake cooling and engine cooling are the other two areas that we are really struggling in. So I would want to make early gains in those areas to catch up a bit, make up some ground. It's marginal gains here in this suspension, but it is gains nonetheless. And I believe car 2 is Albon's car, so he's going to get priority from me. He's the team leader. Here's one of those factors I was talking about, your approach. So in developing more suspension parts, normal means your engineers will finish as soon as they can without rushing, and then rushed will put in extra hours to finish the project, mean a higher cost for a faster completion time, but a lower expertise gain. And then emergency, car parts will arrive today, but a drastically increased cost. You can see how much that would cost. And that should only be if it's needed immediately. We're going to go with normal, because why not? And I'm not going to build a ton of these because it was a pretty marginal gain. It was relatively small. By the way, here is what we are going to really need to pay attention to a lot this season, as ordering 2 of these alone is already going to cost us $100,000 not cheap by any stretch of the imagination. We'll have 2 of them ready within 10 days. Our cash that we have right now, just under 20 million. Our cost cap remaining, this is so important this year, as a cost cap has been implemented in F1 starting last year, and now this year we are at 114 million for the year, which means we're actually 100 million below that. So we're going to have to come up with a lot more funds if we're going to get anywhere near what the cost cap is. But the performance is kind of that key thing that you're looking at on that one. Let's go ahead and confirm the order of those 2 parts though. A lot of magic, we're going to be working on developing the car, which isn't going to get a massive focus this season. We're going to spend a lot of our money on developing the team before we really focus on the car. That though comes down to 9 areas. So we have 6 aerodynamic, 3 powertrain areas, and this is that set. We won't break them down in detail. If you're totally unfamiliar with the sport, watch the race this weekend, Spa. Yeah, great race. If they actually race, unlike last year. So in the car part development screen, we have 6 engineers. We have our cost cap balance, and we have project capacity. We can only do so much at a time. So design and research, we have 2 projects that we could run simultaneously, and manufacturing, we could run up to 3 projects simultaneously. The suspension project we just did behind my face cam here will be done in 10 days, those 2 new parts. That's the only active project. So looking at new projects to develop the car, we are going to spend some. We are going to try to develop the car. A few of the stats are behind the face cam, but as we look up and down the grid, we are anywhere from 18th to 20th with Latifi's car. Meanwhile, 1 spot higher for Albon's car. We're 17th to 19th in every area except for brake cooling and engine cooling, actually, is 20th for him. So that's where we stand, and it's not good. There's no strength with the car. We don't dominate in any area. We're not midfield in any area. We're very much on the back foot. I think low speed corners are definitely one of the areas we need to improve, and then DRS are kind of our 2 weakest areas at the moment that we could potentially go in and try to impact something on. I'll see what I can do with it. I mean, it's still technically preseason, so already recognizing and making changes and alterations before we even go out and race at all. I don't know how useful that will be, but we'll test it here and see if we can find something. So in the new design project, here's my idea, my concept. Each upgrade you make is going to cost money, and that cost is going to be fairly similar, but you have limited hours that you're able to contribute and wind tunnel hours that you're able to contribute. They both come on a scale that comes with some serious limitations to them. I think potentially what we're looking at here, what I need to do is make bigger upgrades less frequently. And in doing so, it should keep the cost down this year as we try to grow and develop the car. That's the idea. So we have a 2-month period right now where we're only allocated so much time. I think realistically at 6.3 on the MAU hours, so mega allocation unit hours that we have. So our testing limit, if we have 6.3, I think realistically I'm looking at 3 upgrades. So if we divide by 3, right, we spend 2.1 right now, and that's going to be 3 upgrades that we can work on and make happen over a 2-month period. Go from there in the next period, right? But that'll keep the cost down quite a bit. Now that means if we have 84 here, we're looking at, let's see, 90 would be 30 each, 6 less, so 28. So we want to spend 28 wind tunnel hours to see where that's going to get us. Now, from that, you can already see that we're looking at improved low speed downforce, medium speed, high speed, all moving up. The high speed especially moving up 7 spots. This is a front wing that we're looking at. Airflow sensitivity, front and back. None of this is going to make us suddenly, super competitive, but it's definitely going to grow our expertise, you could see, in these areas and bring us along. All right, so I'm going full team, front wing only. It's going to take 1 month to complete, but it's at a cost of $700,000. We'll have enough time left in the window to then try to do 2 projects and get those underway while we're still in the window, or maybe we just do one more. and handle it that way. Maybe all in on one big upgrade, seeing how long with only 6 engineers. Even with that, it's going to take 34 days. Yet we have a reallocation at the 2-month mark. I might adjust my philosophy on the next one and kind of go all in on one more big upgrade, but I think that's the key way for us to save some funds over the long term, is just do smaller in quantity but bigger in impact type upgrades for a while. Again, my main focus early on is going to be developing the team, the infrastructure around it, the financial situation, so that we can long term have success at the sacrifice of some short-term gains. Latifi has average growth potential and is definitely not great in terms of his ratings. So yes, we will be looking to move on to another driver. But here's the thing: cost to break contract, because he's got contract for the full year, is $250,000. Now that's actually not that bad. That's really not that bad. Compared to, we just spent $700,000 to develop a new front wing. This is a lot lower. So it's not completely beyond me to maybe look to another driver and find somebody sooner rather than later and replace him mid-season. But realistically, even though it's only $250,000, I'm very much in the game of making money for the team right now and not spending where we do not need to spend. That being considered, he may finish out the contract before we then replace him and spend the year scouting. Speaking of, I'd love to start scouting. As one of the youngest drivers in the pool of drivers, Pourchaire is already fairly good. He's almost equivalent. I think he's right about the same rating as Latifi, and in F2. So we'll see if he's got a much better potential. So we'll do some detailed scouting of him. We can have one more scouted as well. So we'll find a secondary option. Jack Doohan's another good option. Similar rating, just 1 year older. So we'll see how those two turn out. I think before investing too much in the car itself, I'm very much going to be keen on the facilities as well as staff. Our staff is certainly not terrible, but it's not the best in the business, and that's one thing we're going to have to keep an eye on. But years remaining on contract is definitely a thing, and we're looking at 3 to 4 years on each of them. So I might not be making a major move early. I can already tell you, one of those upgrades that you want to get done sooner rather than later is that design center. We only have a capacity of 6 engineers. We can't increase beyond that right now. Hence the fact that it's going to take so long to make one upgrade to the car. Other teams are not going to have the same issue. And same when it comes to the scouting department. With only 2 scouts, it's going to take a while to get through. This, though, I think is one of those areas where we're going to sit on our hands a little bit and not focus on improving the scouting department immediately. Finding the right driver doesn't matter when you're at the back of the grid. As much as Latifi is an eyesore to some people, there is far worse. And how much of a difference is it making? He could be in 18th or he could be in 20th. Oh no, those 2 positions aren't going to matter that much. What can matter is deciding a championship based on a mistake, but that's not their fault. It's somebody else's fault. Now, long-term pit crew is absolutely one of those areas where you want to make gains, and it was not long ago that Williams was absolutely amongst the best on the grid. But that's changed over the last few years, and they're not where they once were. And we're looking at kind of just balanced. From my experience, it seems that the tire changers have the biggest impact on time lost in pit stops or time gained. I think there are other factors that absolutely impact it, but the tire changes is the most complicated and time-consuming part of the pit stop. So we are going to focus our training on tire changes in the near future. Wow, I had no idea that there was so many infrastructure options here. Facility summary, total upgrades built. We are on 19 out of 75. monthly upkeep is 1.5 million. Car development facilities alone are 30 potential upgrades, and we have just 7 of those, and that makes up most of our upkeep on the facilities. That is a lot. That is mind-blowing how much they've put in there. A lot of games have 4, 5, 6 upgrade options. Some get to like 20 and they're all like, woo, we're top of the line. Frontier Development's throwing 75 at us. I think finances are going to be of the utmost importance for this to be a successful series, for us to get where we need to be. Likewise, this is a wonderful time to throw out that please take a moment, drop down below, click that like button, subscribe, hit that red subscribe button if you have not. It is greatly important. There are some huge channels out there doing F1 Manager content, and most of those channels are going to be done in a week or 2 weeks or a month. They're not going to continue on. They're going to come to an end, so they might give you enjoyable viewing, and the algorithm's certainly going to be pushing them, but they're not going to stick with it. I will be sticking with it. I do have a grow a channel, but for it to grow and for the algorithm to pick up a series like this, especially with all that other competition, all that other noise out there on YouTube, I need your help. So if you didn't do it a moment ago, please take that second, drop below, click that like button, hit subscribe, leave a comment, even if it's just an algorithm comment. Let me know if you're excited about our Williams Return to Glory series. If you've seen anything, if you've played the game yet yourself, feel free to leave tips. I'm just getting started here, and we will be hitting a lot of content over the next week. I'm planning on a couple episodes today, a couple episodes tomorrow, and having nearly one a day for the next couple of weeks, because I am so excited to get to play this game and bring it to you. And there's so much depth to this game that just getting through one race weekend could be episodes before we get through that point. I do want to keep things moving along for you as much as I can, but this introductory one, there's just so much stuff going on, so much. But your help is greatly appreciated to make this series viewable, not just to myself. All right, let's go ahead and get back. Let's see what we can do about operations facilities and what we can do to raise some funds. Tour Center is one of those areas to raise some money for the team. Not that it's massive funds, but an increase of $4,500 per week minus the $1,000 on upkeep. So an extra $3,500 a week over years is definitely going to add up. So we'll go ahead and take that one. It'll be done in just 16 days. Now we'll find out how many upgrades we can do simultaneously, as I'm going to keep looking for more. Sponsor payouts being higher is obviously an excellent thing. This will be done in 5 days. Can we build that? It looks like yes, we can. It appears that it's not going to be a big deal whether you have more than one thing going on at the same time. However, one is build, one is upgrade. We'll see if they are taken separately. This is the budget that has been set forth for us this year. So 50 million, well below what the cost cap is. Initial payment is 6 million, and then our monthly is $4 million. That's not a lot, but we will figure out how to, well, one, turn that into more, and two, we'll get by, even if that means not as much track performance. One thing, as we look at the finances, they do appear to be definitely a positive balance. We do have money to work with, even though it's limited, primarily because our outgoing versus the income is much in favor of the income. So we do have a projected $138 million to spend for the year. We just pick and choose how and where to spend that. We've already done some of that, but that projection wise, yeah, it's looking okay. Definitely looking okay. Sponsor payments of $100 million is the primary reason why we are looking pretty okay, but board payments, prize money on top of it, the combination of those three are the primary ways that we are bringing in funds. Looks like our engine, our Mercedes, is $20 million to get that for the year. And here's how the sponsors are looking at this stage. So team ranked, we are 8th out of 10 teams in terms of funding. We definitely need to grow that. But how to grow that is the tricky. Team attractiveness, I would think, would have a lot to do with growing sponsorship money, which is the primary way that we are going to make money. So we're going to need to spend on upgrading that, as it's quite clear that the sponsors bring in the bulk of the finances for the year. Okay, this actually makes a lot of sense. F1 is very much the world sport when it comes to racing, and there's so much that goes on, and the game's finding a way to bring it to us, as in a season kickoff party. We spend 10,000, which is very small pennies in this game. It'll improve the driver morale and staff morale. Might as well. Yes, we want to save money, but something at this tiny of a cost is good. Morale will help us in certain things, especially when the car is not great.
I reckon that's a good decision. It should keep the team in high spirit. Now that's dealt with, we can focus on our first Grand Prix of the season.
First upgrade is complete. It's the helipad. This is going to provide a larger sponsorship bonus from us because, those VIPs are able to come to our facilities and see firsthand through their means of travel. Knowing that finances are the key to everything, we're going to immediately start with an upgrade to the helipad. It's going to add 5 more team attractiveness and give us another percentage point in those sponsor targets payout every race weekend. And there's plenty of money coming from that. So at just 320K, that's a sensible upgrade. Okay, we have those 2 suspension parts now ready. We have backups for Albon. But we don't really have enough for Latifi just yet. So I think we're going to stick with the S1 for Latifi. Manufacture maybe 2 more so we have some reserves going forward. And then from the looks of it, because of the time it's taking to get that front wing upgrade, that's the one area that I'm not going to worry about for a little bit. Everything else, we want to have a decent amount of reserves in that we are not going to be upgrading all areas of the car too frequently. Major part of the race weekend preparation is to set negotiations with your sponsors on bonuses. And the bonuses are not easy. Reach Q2, have the fastest lap, and have a finishing position of 15th or above. Both cars qualifying 15th or above, and one car finishing 15th or above are the things I've set. Now, these are mostly non-negotiable. What is negotiable is you have a bonus. There's an incentive. If you do this, we're going to give you this much extra cash. And then there's, if you do this, you're going to get this much extra cash. Or there's a guarantee. Guarantee we're going to do, in this case, finish 15th or above. If you complete that, you get extra money. And if you don't, there's a penalty. So this is the one we're facing here. So this one is, if you do it, you get extra cash. That's it. You don't do it, nothing happens. Here, if you do it, you get even more extra cash, more money coming back, potential loss. Now, there's the wager part. You're actually putting something on the line, and same here. So the key thing about this race is either getting somebody into Q2, or both cars into Q2, and then getting one driver to finish 15th or higher in this race. That's going to be our primary objectives, financially speaking. Otherwise, we do stand to lose a small amount of money, but we certainly stand to gain quite a bit if we can get somebody into 15th. I think the finish 15th or higher is going to be easier than qualifying 15th or higher for us, as the pace of our car is not great. Finishing 15th or higher, all you need is 2 DNFs, 2 cars struggling, and then beat 2 cars, because one of your drivers is going to finish ahead of the other. So, the worst finish you can have is 19th. 2 DNFs pushes that to 17th. Beat 2 drivers, and you've got a top 15. It does not take much.
Welcome to the archipelago of Formula One. Bahrain might have a small land footprint, but it's showing its big spirit right now in the grandstands. Either way, it's time for another fantastic weekend of Grand Prix racing. The Bahrain International Circuit is a challenging track, and the cars routinely have to brake from high gear to low to take the narrow turns. With the need for downhill braking, the risk of locking up is one drivers will need to manage. It's all about focus and balance to get victory here. At this early stage in the season, there are still plenty of opportunities for things to change. In this sport, there simply are no guarantees. So, without further ado, let's get started.
So for this first episode, we're going to squeeze in free practice 1, so we at least get a little bit of on-track action before we wrap up episode number 1. This is all about finding the setup and acclimatizing to the track, getting to know the car. So much to do, because the more you know the car, the more you know the track, and the more we dial in that setup, the better the car is going to be for it on race day come Sunday. Not a fan of this option. The game, the tutorial forcing us to go straight to qualifying. It won't do this in future races, but it's doing it for the first one. It's trying to get you into the thick of the action. I do want to micromanage things.
Today has already seen the culmination of practice, so we move on now to the all-important qualifying session. For those teams who made the most of free practice, they'll be heading into qualifying full of confidence, knowing that they can carry today's momentum into the upcoming session. Does practice make perfect? Well, for one standout driver, it will make for pole. Hold on tight, because we're getting underway.
Following practice, we are the slowest 2 cars out on track. It's not going to be an easy first race. Aston Martin was the next slowest. We'll see what we can do, especially without those practice sessions. The expectations, I don't think we're going to, the simulation is never going to give you a max. It's never going to give you the most. It's going to give you something adequate, just enough. Micromanaging and doing it yourself is always going to net a better result unless you completely foul it up. First time, you might. First 2 times, you might. But you will figure out how to get the most out of the car. And it's always going to be better than what the AI is going to provide after you've done it a time or 2 anyway. I love that we get a distinctive breakdown, though some of it's behind the face cam. But track acclimatization amounts for 3 points out of the 15-point performance bonus. Car parts knowledge also grants 3 out of 15. About 3 out of 15, it says. And setup confidence is 9 out of 15. So the setup is the biggest factor in that performance bonus. And while both are adequate, they're not great, and therefore we get a bonus of 11 out of 15. So you can see that how that works is it's really to the driver. So Latifi's control is going from a 77 up to an 80. His accuracy up to an 81, cornering up 2, braking up 2, reactions plus 2 points. Where Albon is already starting at a higher level, as he's an 80 and Latifi's a 73. But Albon, you're pushing plus 3, plus 2, plus 2, plus 2, plus 2. So it's essentially the same bonus, but applied to a better base set of attributes. And we see a car out on track for the very first time here in F1 Manager 22. I'm so excited for this. They've done an absolutely fantastic job with the graphics, and this is far beyond what any race management game has done previously. So excited for this. Alright, so what we have is automatic control here for Latifi as he's running out. I do think it's smart to likewise get Albon out on track while the getting's good. We want to get that first lap in, so we'll send him out. Let's let it run automatic for now. That's fine. Alright, so we have an onboard here with Latifi. He's out on his warm-up lap right now. Now with qualifying, it's quite straightforward because it's flat out. It's give your all after you do a proper warm-up lap. Keeping an eye on the track conditions. For one thing, it's dry, it's cloudy, it's nighttime, 6 o'clock in the evening, and looks like we have a 40% chance of rain, but not likely. Most likely cloudy, right? Rain is 40%. So we'll have to keep an eye on that. If rain starts to fall, that changes the circumstances completely. It does appear we have a Haas out on track a little ahead of Albon. Albon could benefit from tow on that one. A Red Bull behind that. Alright. Final turn coming up, and Latifi will get his qualifying run underway. Latifi, slowest in practice. Wouldn't be surprised if that trend continues here, though. And already we've got some traffic coming up shortly after turn 1 here with an Alfa Romeo in the way, and they're going to need to get out of the way here quite soon to let us get on by. And not a fan of their movement on that. Latifi, not the smoothest entry on that one, but I think part of that is the nature of the game. The game's you're going to see that it's not the smoothest, but it's pretty dang close. I mean, this is much better than what you get, like I said, compared to other. Albon also has his lap underway, so he is out on track. We should have sector times coming up, but I'm not seeing them at the moment. Latifi already overheating the tires halfway through the lap, which means that's going to cost him some lap time as you go on. You got to push, but you also need to manage your tires. But qualifying is generally about going flat out, but there are tracks like Bahrain where if you push too hard, if you push to the limit, you're not actually gaining lap time because you get too hot. Moderate overheating though. Difference between a little bit of overheating and a lot. Okay, switching to Albon as he finishes up his first flying lap. Albon half a second faster than Latifi, but Mick Schumacher in the Haas is already well ahead of us, so we are going to have some ground to make up in this one, as Perez, the Red Bull, nearly 2.5 seconds faster. This car is going to be well off the pace. We will not be competing with the front runners anytime soon. All cars in the pits, and I think I want to head out a little bit early on this last run just to make sure we've got things right, at least with Latifi. Right now, things are looking good. Albon is 15th, Latifi is 18th, and for us, that is good. There's the first cars heading out, so we'll send out Latifi first now, and then we will send out Albon just after. Get him out now while there's still enough time to get out and run a warm-up lap. You got to get that first lap in. Times are 1.5 minutes. You run slower on the warm-up lap as you're getting the tires just right. Get the ERS charge, and Albon. What's going on, bud? Got out much later than I clicked on, so hopefully we do not have a problem here with... No, he's got enough time. He's got plenty of time. He will make it. There is some sort of warning, though. I'm curious about what that warning is. I don't know if it's just that we're on the bubble and that's what it's showing there. Looks like we've got Latifi just ahead of Albon on track. We're going to keep an eye on their sector times as they get the final lap underway. We've got 30 seconds till the end of the session, but all you need to do is start that flying lap, and both are crossing that line now with time to spare. So everybody on track is on their final flying lap here in Q1, and we are going to be comparing sector by sector. Yellow means slower, green means faster, purple means fastest. You can see Verstappen right now quickest after sector 1. There are 3 sectors to break down what is happening on a lap. So we should be seeing that first sector coming soon. Albon is green, Latifi is green. Both are improving their time, but so is the entire back end of the field. Vettel did not improve his first sector time though, so that is one encouraging thing for us, that maybe we can jump Vettel. Looks like Albon, the I believe that's Albin we are on board with. He seems to be closing up on Latifi just a little bit as we go to finish sector number 2. We should be seeing those sector 2 times coming in here shortly. Ricardo's faster. Gotta watch out for him. He's in a much faster car. Ocon is faster, also in a faster car. Latifi and Albin both coming up on it here soon. Where is that sector 2 time? Albin a little bit slower, so is Latifi. So both of them slower in sector 2. Not looking good to improve our times. Bottas also slower though is a positive sign, and we drop down below as Ricardo moves up. He improves his time. We're gonna have a fast sector 3 if we are going to improve our time at all. Not much change in the order. No change at all. No change at all. So 18th and 20th. Told you qualifying might be a little tricky for us. We are ahead of Stroll, and that is all. That sets the grid for our very first race, but that also is going to do it for this very first episode. If you did not do so earlier, please take that second, drop below, leave that like and comment to really, really help this series take off. And if you want to see more, hit subscribe. I'm Decathlon Gamer. Thanks for tuning in. Have a good one. Be safe out there. Bye for now.